What's up everybody, it's Critical. I'm playing to defy the laws of tradition. It's for the bass guitar. Let's do this shit. Okay, so this is not going to be a lesson over the Frizzle Fry version of the track. This is going to be over how the song is typically played live. I mean, it's you know, extremely similar to the record version. There's really not much of a difference, but the main performance I'm going to be looking at is Woodstock 94, not 99. Okay, so the intro, it's going to go like this. Okay, to play the intro again, but slower. Okay, so this entire intro is softly plucking with your thumb and your index finger back and forth. So your index finger the entire time is going to be plucking the G string on the 9th fret. It's going to be there the whole time. But the rest of your fingers and your thumb are going to be doing some moving around. Okay, so we're going to start with A7. I would use your middle finger for this octave here. Then we're going to take it up to D6 2 times. I would, use your index finger. And then we're going to take it up to D7 once. And then we're going to do a 6, hammer on 7, pull off back to 6. So speaking of that, he doesn't do that all the time. In a good chunk of the kind of 90s performances, such as this one, such as Woodstock 94, he is doing that the whole time. But like on Frizzle Fry, for instance, and at the KZSU 1989 Radio Jam, it's just the D7 twice, so it's like... I just like to do I just think it sounds cooler. Okay, so after we're back down here to A7 to do that once. So the second time, we're going to be hitting open E with the thumb instead. Okay, so yeah, that hitting the open E the second time in the measure or bar or whatever the fuck it's called. That's going to come up again and again in this intro. So, okay, so we're going to repeat all that. So after that, we're going to take it down to D5 here. Yeah, you kind of really have to stretch your hand here to hit that. 5 times. Then A5 twice. Then A6 once. And then we're back into the... Okay? Okay, so after the climb up here, we're back into the main area here, but again, you know, hitting the open E on the second time. And then for the rest of this bar or measure or whatever the hell it's called, we're just going to be sticking to before repeating basically everything we've done so far a second time. So like. Okay, and then after the second climb up here, we're gonna, you know, do another one of those, keep that going for the, you know, doohickey. Now we're gonna start hitting the tritone here, so at D8. Again, still hitting the open E on the second one every time. Okay, so that last bit, you're just going to keep that going, just keep playing that as the you know, drums and guitar come in for the into the main riff. And that is this octave power chord, whatever, I don't know what the technical term for it is, A5, DG7, then up a fret, and up another fret. It's kind of like a reverse Herald of the Rocks. Okay, now for the main riff. Okay, to play that slower. Okay, so we're going to start with a double muted slap on E, and then slap E4, hammer on 6, and then move that up a fret. So E4, hammer on 6, and then E5, hammer on 7. So what I'm basing this off is the 90s performances. So like that's how it's done in like Videoplasty, in Woodstock, in KZSU. However, later, like in Hallucinogenetics, that's not what's going on. In that, it's 4/5, 4 hammer on 5 twice. So in that, it's like. But yeah, so I mean we're sticking to Woodstock, so. Okay, and after that we're going to do 2 muted strums. And then we're going to do 3 strums at DG, Death Grips 6. And then we're going to throw the A4 in there to make it a, you know, fuller kind of octave chord. Okay, so this, I'm going to call that part 1 for this riff, and then part 2 is going to be, so part 2 is not going to start with a double muted slap, it's going to start with a single muted slap. So part 2, it's instead of, that's true all the time in the song, except for when he's saying the lyrics. So when he's saying the lyrics, for some reason, he does the double muted slap on part 2. I'm not really sure why. Maybe it's just kind of easier subconsciously, but yeah. So part 2 is going to start with a single muted slap, and then the again. So then we're going to do 2 muted strums, and then 2 strums of that 6 bar chord, followed by 2 muted strums again. And then on that strum down here, we're going to strum at 7, but instead of strumming up, it's just a strum down on 7, and then another strum down on 6. So there's no muted strum in between those, so it's not like instead it's okay. So part 2 we have, so both parts all together. So there are a couple of fills in this main riff. Well, actually there's like 3, but the third one is like during the guitar solo, but we'll get to that as to the other 2 fills. So the first one is this octave chord here. You're going to take that up an octave, up to like A16, and then D and G 18. So that's one. So the second fill, where the last strum is of the entire main riff, so after the, so where you would strum the, instead of strumming that, you're going to like, well, you're going to strum the D and G strings, but you're just going to like kind of shoot your hand way up here on the neck, so kind of like this. Like so. So as to the placement of these fills, I mean, in this performance anyway, you know, I'm pretty sure it's not identical with every performance. Roughly speaking, there's the, you know, kind of shoot up. There's one of those just before the first verse comes in, before he starts even saying the lyrics, we have one of those. And then a few times later, we have that fill that, I mean, the first one I explained, where that chord is taken up an octave here. So after the first verse, but before the second verse, we have that same thing again. So, you know, the shoot up fill, but this time immediately followed by the fill. And then later, during the guitar solo, towards the end of the guitar solo, when Les kind of gets down off the stage and gets close to the crowd, we have 2 or 3 of those fills. We have a few of those. Okay, and just before the interlude part, I'll call it, we're going to strum a chord, but then take it up pretty high here, just somewhere in the high register. You know, place doesn't really matter, doesn't really do it the same way every time. So the timing of this can be a little tricky, just because the drums kind of disappear at this part, you know, but again, you know, not great at all with music theory, but in your mind, just keep track of 8, so like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it sort of looks like he's with the right hand tapping on 2 strings, just because his hand is kind of like this, you know, with his index and middle fingers out, kind of this, you know, Italian thing. But he's just tapping on the D string. It's just the D string only, with the middle finger kind of touching the string there. I mean, I guess you could use just your middle finger. funny looking, but yeah, the index finger's just kind of there for stability, you know. So we're going to do 2 taps in between each of the Now, as to like where on the D string you're doing the tapping, the sort of general rule of thumb based on, you know, the performance I've studied, mentioned earlier. So there's 2 interludes in this song. So there's one like right before the guitar solo and then one at the very end. So for the first one, the zone you're going to be kind of sticking at is like 13 through 17-ish, like this kind of zone. But for the last part, the second interlude, you're going to start lower and then kind of work your way up like higher and higher. So it's going to be like... and then working your way up higher and higher. So, I mean, he plays a piccolo bass, you know, so he's got a bunch of frets to work with, so... So you may have to go up to the G string here just to get it super high there. So we have a fill here during the guitar solo, and this fill's not played like the same way every time. And I mean, just with most of them and with the Frizzlefire version, I mean, to be honest, I don't really know what's going on. My best guess is that it's this kind of like half-step hammer-on thing, like kind of similar to like Pudding Time, you know, with the... and then, you know, Mud, how it's kind of like working up. I think for this track, it's like 4/5 on the E string, and then 4/5 up on A, and then taking that up a whole step every time, so something like that. Like 2 up here, 8, 9, and then like a 10 slide down. I don't really know. That's, I mean, in Woodstock, that fill, he doesn't really play it where you'd kind of expect to hear it. I mean, like on the record version, where you'd expect to hear that fill, he doesn't play a fill there. He plays a similar fill kind of later, like half of that, like halfway up that, and then just kind of like a slide up to a G pop. So kind of like that. And yeah, that's about it. So there you go. To defy the laws of tradition.